Blog Talk Radio.
Fans, here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, moms and dads joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it is showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We're rooting, and we go into that fight to land on the line.
Basketball fans, the NBA off-season banter podcast returns. I almost said NBA playoff banter, but we're basically going to talk playoffs on this episode, if we're being honest. Last week we did a show on Tuesday and we said, hey, maybe we'll be back, in a week. Maybe it'll be a few weeks, 3 weeks. Maybe it'll be a month. Maybe it will be August. Who knows? But no, that's not how the NBA offseason operates. We're going to do 7 more freaking shows at this rate. However, we're obviously here to discuss the blockbuster trade and signing of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to the LA Clippers, to have the Lakers and the Clippers in Staples Center in the same building, in the same city. It is just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous amount of spoils for the NBA. We were talking off air, next year, not this coming year, but the year after when KD comes back. Imagine New York with Brooklyn having a team. If Westbrook ended up in New York, imagine having that attention-getting type players in New York, and then, a finals preview in a sense, potentially, in the conference final in the West, going head-to-head, battling for LA. The battle for LA. Who will win at this point? Obviously, the rosters are not complete for the Clippers and the Lakers. We do now know potentially some starting lineups and the bench depth. That's something we'll break down. We're basically going to talk about how the Clippers pulled this thing off. Kawhi, the quiet man Kawhi, was on the low recruiting Durant, Kyrie, and he settled for a pretty damn good player in Paul George. They're both going back home to Southern California. It's ridiculous. Obviously, OKC, Oklahoma City, is in rebuild mode. Now we're talking about, where's Westbrook going to go? They got this huge, huge haul. We thought New Orleans got a big haul, and they did, clearly. But man, oh man, wow. Oklahoma City got a huge haul. What can they get for Westbrook? Where's he going to go? Will he go to New York? Will he go to Miami, Houston, Minnesota, Detroit? Bunch of things to discuss today on the podcast. But like I said, we're going to get into some of these breakdowns for the Battle of LA. The Clippers, the Lakers, the potential starting lineup matchups. Who's got the best starting lineup? Who's got the bench depth? So we're going to talk all about it and kind of give our takes on the national media and what they've done with the Clippers. Vegas has made them the favorite last time I checked. And damn near every podcast or every blog or some sort of, Twitter something has the Clippers tearing down the Nets. Now, like I said, we don't know the end roster of these teams. In the coming days, it could change. In the coming weeks, the coming months. I mean, we all know halfway through the season, you can acquire someone, whether it's injury or you see, okay, after a couple of months, we see that we need this. It's going to be interesting, man. It is going to be interesting, but you can retool a little bit. Neither of these teams are going to have to do, say, the Cleveland midseason retool from 2 years ago. But Bronny found a way to make that get together, not defensively because there was no hope for that team 2 years ago in Cleveland, but that was crazy to retool because they had to with Kyrie in the offseason. And then, oh, by the way, we got to retool again. So we know there can be quality, additions, whether it comes through a trade, whether it comes through a buyout in a late, with a month left in the season, we join the squad. So we're going to talk all about it, no doubt about it. If this is your first time listening to the NBA offseason podcast, which actually just kind of extends from the NBA playoff banter, we've been going since mid-April, going strong damn near every week, it seems. But if this is your first time listening to it, it streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. So it streams live and it archives. It's basically the headquarters for the show under the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast, though. You can find this NBA podcast on iTunes, Player FM, Spreaker, Stitcher, anywhere. In fact, you can find this on the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network as well, and you can find that on iTunes and everywhere, including Spotify and iHeartRadio. And if you lose, don't lose it. If you use your Siri or Alexa, you can, through the TuneIn and Spotify apps, you can listen to the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast to listen to the NBA show, or the gruelingtruth.net, or I should say the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. Why don't you head over to the gruelingtruth.net? It's basketball, football, boxing, baseball, everything in between. You can listen to the show right there. It gets posted right there. Head on over to the gruelingtruth.net. They got a great sponsor over there, betdsi.eu. That's betdsi.eu. Right now they got a promo code, 50% for sports, 50% for casino. Get a little bonus in there. The promo code is TGT, as in the Grueling Truth. That's promo code TGT. And one thing real quick, and then we're going to get this show rolling. If you're cutting the cord or thinking about cutting the cord, or you did, whatever it is, DirecTV Now is worth a try. It's a 7-day free trial. There's no annual contracts. You can stream it anywhere. Plans start as low as $50 a month. They include HBO. And right now there's a deal for an Apple TV 4K 5th generation thrown into it, okay, with the prepay. 4-month prepay, regularly priced $179. You get $200 for cable for 4 months. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host, Marshall. Marshall. Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, we thought we were going to be like, well, we'll probably get a couple of weeks here. We'll probably get 10 days minimum. Nope, we're actually coming back 6 days later, not even a week later. We had to do the podcast. We could have done one Saturday potentially, but our schedules didn't quite line up. But just the fact that we did one Tuesday and that news broke Friday, only in the NBA will a signing and a free agent trade, or free agent signing and a trade happen in break in the wee hours of the morning. I actually got home from work, was watching Zion's first game there with Barrett, and I saw the little post up, breaking news. I'm like, okay, the Clippers, they got Paul George. Oh, wow, and here we are today. The Western Conference in the NBA shifts again, and I'm proud to say now it's a 2-star league again. It's a 2-star league, Marshall, with no more super teams as of right now. They're not going to go away, but right now it's a 2-star league, and who can you put around your foundation to make you the best team? It's basically Kawhi killed the super teams at least for a couple of years. What are your thoughts late Friday night, probably with you, knowing you, it's probably Saturday morning. How the hell did you find out? What the hell were you thinking? Did you fall asleep on the couch, get some notification, get some texts, and wake up at 1:30? How did you figure it out? And just your first thoughts. Obviously, we're going to break this down head-to-head starting lineup, bench depth. We're going to obviously talk OKC and their rebuilding mode that they're in Westbrook and whatnot. But just first thoughts, doesn't have to be some long-winded thing, but what the hell, that was a shocker, dude. It's one thing, we had pretty much ruled out the Clippers. But, silence is key. And, I do a boxing show, and a lot of times when it's silent and talks are going on behind closed doors and the talk isn't in the media about something, that's the best time and usually the time that things get done. But this one came, I can't even say from left field, dude. This came from across the other part of the country. It was so out. It came from a different, whole galaxy. I can't believe that they were able to do it in Oklahoma City. Man, this has been the best off season to trade because you're gonna get value.
Yeah, it's been something else. I am happy that he didn't go to the Lakers because that would have assembled a team that would have basically been unbeatable. That would have been a team that probably would have beat the Golden State Super Team. So I'm happy he did that. I woke up that morning about 6 or 6:30 in the morning to a bunch of texts. I figured the news was going to break when I was asleep one night. So apparently going to sleep, woke up to Iguodala leaving, woke up to Kawhi. NBA, it doesn't matter what time of the day. Those guys are going to break news. I feel bad for those NBA writers who got to wake up and start typing up a damn story around 2 a.m. or get on Twitter. But, yeah, I'm with you. I'm happy he went to the Clippers. I did think it was pretty funny how all the NBA insiders or people on all the hot take shows were like, oh, I've heard this, I've heard
Right.
this, I've heard this. And it's like, really? Interesting. I didn't hear anyone breaking he was going to the Clippers. So those locked sources of yours, man, those must have been spot on, just great information, or seeing the people on Twitter, and this is like a lot of big name people, like Kawhi is being offered by Drake to appear in his upcoming record. That is Drake's pitch. It's like, you got to be shitting me. We're talking about Kawhi Leonard, a guy that kind of does his own thing, and you expect me to believe that by Drake offering him part of his album, that's going to be a pitch to keep him as a Raptor? I thought that shit was silly. Sure, maybe he's into music, maybe he likes Drake, but a guy like Kawhi Leonard, and one thing you're breaking on like massive media is the fact that Drake's helping the pitch. It's like, okay. I guess to me, Chris, I had to take a shot at Drake. It's been a little
Leonard's
bit, but I got to keep him coming.
Dude. Kawhi's got bars. No, Drake's probably the biggest reason he didn't resign.
Easily, for all we know, he easily could be. I still got to get my customized T-shirt saying "See you at the Bay, Aubrey." I know we didn't win the title, but I still got to wear that shit next year. Anyways, I'm excited he went there. Again, the longer it went on, I was gonna say before we got off topic with Drake's poor music. The longer it went on, it's like it's probably not gonna be the Lakers. In just the back of my head, I guess I was leaning towards Toronto just because, like you, I'd kind of thought the Clippers were a little bit out of the picture, but I was like, man, the Lakers seem like the easy choice. Like, if he was going to go there, what's he still waiting for now? And obviously, we'll never know Kawhi, in the horse race inside his mind, how far first, second, third were apart from each other. Like, if something had gone wrong with the pitch from Doc Rivers, like how close was he to joining LeBron? Who knows? We'll never know that answer. But as you said, he goes there now. He obviously brings a friend along, which I guess maybe could have been the reason why it did take him that long to sign.
It's not a maybe. Not a maybe.
Okay.
That's exactly the reason why. Because the Durant and Kyrie were in the talks too.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that explains why it was longer than needed. And to give his team credit, man, he kept that stuff silent. Durant's news broke an hour before he wanted to post on his Instagram. You didn't hear a single peep from Kyrie, and you had all these people at ESPN making assumptions like, I heard this, and everyone was wrong. But whoever Kawhi surrounds himself with is just loyal to death. I mean, you didn't hear a single thing. And he was talking to big-name people, and nowadays a lot of people would be willing to tweet with anything they can to make news, and you never heard anything huge. So Obviously, him having Paul George join is a nice piece. I do think originally when this news came of the Clippers, it was just Kawhi's going there. Like, okay, this Clippers team, they looked good against the Warriors in the playoffs. Like, okay, they're a squad. They got some Lou Williams. They got some guys that can shoot. But, excuse me, I don't even think it was really he's having to bring a friend with. Now, obviously, he's not dumb. He wants to. But when we were doing our show a couple months ago, and I remember seeing Vegas making the Clippers the favorite for Kawhi to join, the news wasn't really Kawhi and partner are going. It was just Kawhi's going to L.A. And to kind of backdoor sneak Paul George in along with him, it's like, wow, that was a hell of a deal. Obviously, if you're an Oklahoma City fan, you got your heart ripped out again. Durant leaves, Paul George comes. He signed a big 4-year deal, and you're thinking, okay, we got him locked up for 2 more seasons after this with Westbrook, and we'll see what happens. You never know. And now he leaves town. I will say they
great season too. Probably his best season ever.
Yeah, second or third in MVP voting. I forget where he finished, but he was right up there with Harden and Antetokounmpo. And obviously his numbers would have been even better if he hadn't had to battle a little bit of a shoulder injury down the stretch. But man, for OKC, you got a bunch of – you're kind of in the New Orleans mode. Now, unfortunately, you didn't get Zion, and you didn't know about this before the NBA draft, but you have now an assortment of lottery picks – or, excuse me, first-round draft picks, which could be very beneficial to you. Obviously, if you end up trading Westbrook, now, again, you're bringing either pieces and more draft picks. So you're kind of in the rebuild phase, Chris, but at least you have pieces to work with. I mean, we're obviously going to get to the Clippers and Lakers soon, but from the drama and the after effects of this, Toronto goes back now to being an average team. I would say not garbage by any means, but they pretty much kept their whole roster besides Kawhi. They're still probably a playoff team in the East, but if you're OKC, okay, we had a run a couple of years ago. It came up a little short. Durant left town. Bringing Paul George, he left town. Now Westbrook probably wants to go because he's tired of being by himself and for as long as he's been there. Let's go to the rebuild mode. Like I said, you don't got a guy like Zion, but you did get, I believe, 5 first-round picks. You're obviously probably going to have a lottery pick going into the season. So for them, I'm with you. I think the Westbrook trade has to be almost an automatic. With how the Western Conference teams have loaded up, whether it be the Jazz, Portland made some changes. Golden State, they're not going to be bad. I mean, everyone's kind of boosting their resume. If you're Oklahoma City, I'm with you. Trade Westbrook and kind of get to rock bottom and start building your way up to see what kind of squad you could have in 3 to 4 years. I think that's a smart play, even though he's been the cornerstone of that franchise for what seems like 10 years now. I think you have to look for options for him and try to get maybe a couple pieces back of actual players with the ton of picks you already got coming in from the Clippers themselves.
Yeah, they did it. Like you said, first 5 rounders, got the youth there, got a young prospect, got Gallinari who you can play, or when he's healthy, he's a player, obviously, or you can trade him because here's the deal. Some of these contracts in a year or two, the cap's going to go up, and also the new contract that just got signed, some of the extensions for these players jump from like mid to kind of high 140s to 170 now. Like even a guy like Andrew Wiggins in 2 years, his contract's not going to look as crazy as it does right now. It's still going to be high. There's going to be high contracts out there, but in 2 years, people are going to go, oh yeah, that's right. That's not that bad now, So there's going to be some of that as well that they can maneuver. And Gallinari's a guy that some people think was overpaid because he gets hurt so much. But, he's a guy that, well, obviously can be moved. He's been moved a fair amount. But, in that, while we're at it, we might as well just knock this one out, just get it out of the way. Like I said, we're going to talk Lakers and Clippers, potential starting lineup, bench top, who's got the better starting lineup, who's got the best bench, who's going to be able to beat who, as far as what we got right now. But the rebuild is in full mode. Westbrook on the move. You hear the Knicks, Marshall, for Westbrook just because they didn't get anything. They don't get anything besides a bunch of role players. And although I think some of these guys, they're not going to be able to trade till like December 15th. So maybe that's going to screw them again. But that they just signed. There's that rule that if you just sign someone, yada, yada, yada. But the Knicks are in the running just because Westbrook to New York would be a big deal. He is one of the most popular athletes in the world, hands down, not just NBA, but in the world just in general. He love him, hate him, love his game, hate his game, whatever it is. He moves the needle. In fact, it's like scratching a needle. You know what I mean? It's like he definitely moves the needle. So to have him in New York, that makes sense. New York would get excited about that, and then they'd say, well, then we're going to add somebody else in a year or two, and yada yada yada. That would be a big deal. Now, Miami, the whole thing about Butler going to Miami is because Miami in the next year and two are going to have some contracts come off the books. They're going to be able to maneuver some of them with expired contracts in a year. They're looking to add another piece. So, Butler and Westbrook, I've heard of a couple of people speak on Butler and Westbrook, and that is a interesting matchup, no doubt about it. But, because obviously, we know the issues with Durant, who's a more of passive-aggressive, right? He's not going to be that aggressive on the court to you or maybe even in practice, but he'll probably get at you with the burner account on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and Butler and Paul George is not necessarily going to get in your face in a game or at practice either per se or this. But maybe it could be super dysfunctional with Butler and Westbrook. Super dysfunctional. But it also could be Jimmy looking Westbrook dead in the eye and say, no, dude, you need to freaking stop taking so many shots. That's not your shot. Get over yourself, or do you want to fight? You know what I mean? Maybe, just maybe, because the coach isn't going to say that to Westbrook. Maybe that's what, in this whole time, maybe that's what Westbrook needed, a guy that's going to get right in his face and go, nah, dog, this is the conference finals, dude. What are you doing? You know what I mean? You never know. That would be an interesting mix. Obviously, Houston is in all trade talks because of their pieces and also because of some of their contracts. So they're always in the mix, and that would kind of be like, they could rebuild, but then maybe get a big for the future. Who knows how that would work? Obviously Harden and Westbrook together again, but together with so much ball handling there and how the offenses are ran, I'm not sure. Well, then again, maybe Harden off the ball now is a little better. They probably want to get Harden off the ball as much as possible, even though it doesn't seem like that's going to be possible how they're built right now, unless Paul stays healthy for the whole season. The Detroit Pistons are around in the talks, and same with the Timberwolves. Obviously, like I said about Wiggins, Wiggins is 23, or 20. I think he just turned 24, actually. And in 2 years, that deal's not going to be nuts. You could actually probably move that deal then. And if you're rebuilding, you're not going to be good for 2 or 3 years anyway. Or great, I should say, not good, but great. Maybe they do that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Russell Westbrook getting traded? Where do you, just off some of the things you've heard, some of the things I just mentioned, where's the most likely scenario, man? Because they already, I'm not going to say a heist, but for Paul George, that's a whole lot for Paul George, considering Anthony Davis is a better player. Of course, they got more play. It is what it is. But what are your thoughts on where Russ Westbrook could spend the next couple of years of his career outside of OKC?
I think you nailed it, because he is such a special person, and his personality is what it is, that if you're bringing him in to join a fellow superstar, like, you better fact check with that guy before you bring him in, or it's going to be chaos. Like, I think him and Butler it'd be fireworks. Like, it's just like two alphas on the same team, and they kind of have different personalities too. Like, I get you have a lot of talent on the court, but man, it'd be interesting. As you said, that'd be two hard-nosed guys to stop going to the basket when the game's on the line, but can they coexist? Yeah. Going to Houston, that'd be comical. I would actually hope he go. That'd be beautiful just to see the soap opera play out there. But I think him going to a team like New York where he can kind of run his own show would probably be best for him. Probably, what he wants. Like, I've heard so many people throughout the years say, like, man, I've gotten to know him on a personal basis, and he's a really chill, laid-back guy. And maybe he is off the court, but on the court, he is such a tough person to play with. Like, Paul George kind of was like the perfect kind of like best friend to have, where George could still do his whole thing.
Right.
You ever heard George complain about Westbrook? George put up MVP numbers, and they coexisted. But Paul George isn't a guy that truly demands the ball. Obviously, he would take it near the end of games, but those two were kind of a perfect matchup. But him and Harden, you need a couple of basketballs on the court because those guys need the ball in their hand. And, change style up or not, as you mentioned, who knows? But that'd be a tough mix. Maybe a place like New York where he literally would be the show and can be something to build around. And for the Knicks, that's a splash they can make to their fan base. That could be something very beneficial for them. And if you're Oklahoma City, I mean, you obviously don't want your guy to go, but you're kind of facing the point of, hey, anytime, Chris, we ever see an NBA player say, hey, I'm ready to go, that's like a 98% chance that he's going. It seemed like it kind of started, I'm sure it's gone on for longer, but I remember years ago when Carmelo's like, dude, I want out of Denver. And from what I remember, it was kind of like, wow, a superstar saying he's gone, I'm out, you better trade me. And over the past 10 years, it's become more and more of a thing where guys say, hey, I'm ready to go. A franchise has to just, bite their tongue, swallow the pride and say, all right, dude, let's try to get the best piece we can for you. And the fact that the news is already out saying, hey, they're looking to trade Westbrook, as we've mentioned, it kind of lowers the value because he's on the move. But you are getting a guy who is kind of a walking triple-double. And there's probably teams that want that on their squad. Now, they may be a team that's of lesser caliber in the win column, and maybe that's something he won't want to go to because obviously I don't think they're going to trade him to anyone. They're probably going to want to come to some type of agreement of Westbrook says, hey, I'm not going here. Okay, we're not going to, who knows. But I'm assuming they're going to try to work that out together. But someone's going to add him. But, again, if you have a current top 10, top 20 player who is your franchise superstar, you better do the little research of can these guys coexist on the court?
Well, what about Cat and him? What about Cat and him? Not to cut you off, but let's give an example right to what you're talking about. What about Karl Anthony Towns? For years, or not years, but the last few years, we've said, man, if Russ could play with a stretch 4 or stretch 5, wow, that would open stuff up. How about him? Or is Karl a little bit like, oh, God, here, have the ball, man, I'm sorry. Is the Jimmy Butler experience that didn't go well for Karl, although it hardened him as a player, I think, and probably as a person. What about that example? Cat and Westbrook. This town would jump for joy to get Westbrook. You know it because they'd be getting rid of Wiggins.
I don't know the Wolves as well as you, but I think that's something that could fit. Again, Karl Anthony Towns, he's kind of been the leader of the team. The guy puts up numbers every year that are only matched by all-time Hall of Famers. The guy's legit, but having a wingman who is another star, which he hasn't really had around him per se to Westbrook's level, besides a quick Butler time, I think that could be very beneficial for them. And all of a sudden, you're back to being a playoff contending team or a team in the playoffs with Westbrook and Karl Anthony Towns, because now you have two guys who put up legit Hall of Fame numbers every game, and you put them on the same team. If you can make it work with a young coach, I think that's something that would be nice. Obviously, the Wiggins deal is what kept them from trading for D'Angelo Russell, who actually wanted to go to Minneapolis. So maybe that'd be a hindrance again now. But I do think that if you put Cat and Westbrook on the same team, that's a pretty damn offensive-looking lineup all of a sudden. Like, those are two guys who are going to score a ton every night. So I think that would fit, you know. Again, who knows how that plays out, but I'm with you. In the city, that would be a huge kind of
my God.
move for a fan base that's been dying since pretty much the Garnett days to have a legit squad again. That would be pretty damn crazy, my friend.
It was just the energy with the Butler thing was different, but just people knowing Westbrook and the ticket sales and just everything. And it would be hilarious for him to go from small market to small market like that, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Like Oklahoma City. Hey, Minneapolis. He's going to be like, wow, Minneapolis is a huge city. This is big. Wow, this is great. I love. Oh, there's a city right next to it, St. Paul. Wow, you guys really got a nice city. You know, obviously he's from L.A., but it's just that'd be crazy. That would be crazy. Anything else you want to talk about before we get into the head-to-head matchup for the Battle of Los Angeles?
I will say I've always kind of liked Memphis a little bit just because there's a guy I listen to a show all the time. I've been so confused. I think Memphis has made like 9 trades in the past week where I really have no idea who's on the team besides Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. They've made every day they make a move.
You know, Iggy, it's like, okay, so when are you going to buy out Iggy or are you going to trade him? That's all I give a shit about Memphis right now.
And Dwight Howard.
That's right.
I don't. They're.
Oh my God! I forgot
I'm
about
not sure
that guy.
what the hell Memphis is doing, but yeah. Anyways, besides the Memphis Grizzly talk, we'll go from East Coast to West Coast, from I'll say close enough, Nashville, which is a great city, to L.A., cities I've been to now we're no longer one team's a joke. Like, I remember reading an ESPN article a couple years ago, Chris, maybe 4 to 5, where the Clippers were so upset that, like, they would take down banners or they would cover banners up during the season, and that the Lakers were kind of like the older brother to the Clippers of, like, dude, I know we share the arena, but we have rings and you don't, so we're going to kind of bully you and saying, like, dude, no. This is our home court. You're kind of renting it from us, and let's keep it that way. And the Clippers had a couple of good runs with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, which, I mean, it's crazy. That team seems like it was a decade ago, Chris, even though it was. It's just crazy. But now they're back to being a team that's not the joke anymore. You went through the Donald Sterling debacle of being an old white racist guy that probably deserved to get out, and you bring in Ballmer, who's the guy willing to spend money, dance when he's on the big screen at the games, and seems to be doing all he can to make the to make the team better. And now they got people. You know, I'm not sure. You know, they had mentioned that Doc was a big part of talking to Kawhi. I'm sure Ballmer played some sense into it. He seems to be a likable guy that's doing all he can to help his franchise win. And now the Clippers are going to be a team that's going to sell out games like the Lakers did. They won't be the punching bag. You know,
Jerry West.
Oh yeah. Well, that dude just lands everyone. He helped freaking land Durant in Golden State. That guy's like the ghost whisperer. That he's special. But as
Jerry
you mentioned,
West, dude. Jerry West and Doc taking Doc's focus off of being a GM and solely on being a coach. I think it paid dividends this year as you saw them trade their best player and still sneak into the playoffs. And oh, by the way, push a healthy Golden State team to 6.
Yeah, and now you've got some guys that can shoot. Literally, that's what the Clippers have. It's a bunch of shooters, and the 6th man of the year forever and ever and ever, it seems. And now you add 2 pieces. I mean, the fact that Lou Williams, the guy who can score 30 a night off the bench, is now like a backup role player of a scorer. It's like, well, damn. I'm not sure how great the Clippers will be defensively. Obviously, won't be bad with George and Kawhi, but he's now a guy that can just come off the bench and get hot and doesn't have to be the main ball carrier, like, or dribble it, whatever. You know, that's huge. And now I will say, to kind of set this up, I do think the fact that the Clippers are now the favorite to win the title in Vegas, I think we've forgotten a little bit about a guy named LeBron James. And I know he was hurt last year, and he wanted to come back, but he tweaked his groin. The Lakers like, dude, it's not our year. Just get rest and get healthy.
Right.
LeBron's going to come back and be ready to go, especially now with kind of rivalry in town. And a guy named Anthony Davis is pretty damn good at basketball too. So I do think that.
And he's
if
rested too. He played 33 minutes, and a lot of times he wasn't playing fourth quarters or playing in the games as the season dwindled down. So you got a fresh LeBron who has, who's been out since not even mid-April,
Sure.
I mean, It'd be one thing just to say mid-April, but no, he's been out longer. But he's probably been healthy since mid-April, and he hasn't been putting in those taxing minutes. I mean, they're going to be fresh. Keep going. We'll get into the starting lineups and all that in the bench later, but keep going with this thought process because damn near everybody just anoints the Clippers as the champion.
It's surprising. I guess if you're a Laker fan, man, get the value. Like I think Clippers are 3-1 to win the title. The Lakers are like 4.5 or 5-1. Or excuse me, the Lakers. Yeah, it's like jump on that. Like, and what I'm about to say is, I guess you could say it's a little bit biased because I'm a Golden State guy. But the Raptors probably weren't winning the title if our boys don't go down. So does Kawhi deserve a ton of credit? 100%, absolutely yes. He won a ring. He pretty much did it carrying that team on his back. But he did it against a team that was, like, beat up. So is Kawhi awesome? Yes. But, again, LeBron, he beat our full team. I think we're forgetting a little bit about LeBron and Anthony Davis, who does get nicked up. He seems to get hurt every year, but it's never super serious. Is, as you mentioned at the start of the show, kind of a guy who's unguardable. He's pretty much he can shoot like the range of Dirk Nowitzki, but he's like 10 times quicker, and he can play defense.
Right.
And he can dribble. And they've now added Boogie Cousins. I know he's my guy, but the Lakers are gonna have pieces too. So I do think it's a little crazy. And it probably, Chris, is because of the fact that Kawhi just won a title. And, again, I'm not taking anything from it.
Right.
I think that's the reason as to why they're now the favorite to win the ring. And, granted, Lakers are second. But, personally, if I'm in Vegas, I'd flip that. I would have the Lakers as your first favorite and then put the Clippers. So we're on the same page there, brother. But maybe it's a little bit of the Kawhi stardom. And, again, he deserves it, but I would maybe have them as even or something. Again, we're dissecting 3 to 4 to 1 odds, and they're pretty much very similar. But yeah, that definitely caught me by surprise, as the Clippers now being a favorite to win the 2020 NBA championship from Vegas, my friend, which I'll be in less than a week.
Nice.
Maybe I'll put some money down on put a little money down on the Wolves if they get Westbrook.
There you go. And they have two of the top. When I say top 5, 2 of the top 5, it could be 2 of the top 3 or 4. It really matters. It could be the top 2 players. You just don't know. Giannis is going to develop a little bit more on the outside. Can he take over as the number 1 player? Right now, Kawhi Leonard wants to stake that claim, saying, I am the best. What is he, 28? Can he be the next best or the best player now? Because Durant looked like he was taking that over, right? That's what it looked like. Now he's going to be out for basically next year. So that is in transition. You can't say Durant's the best player in the league right now because you can't. You just can't right now. So is Leonard ready to take over that? If he is, then we can start to discuss this stuff more. The thing about LeBron, the LeBron hate still is so strong, dude. It's still like, wow, dude, I can't believe, it's okay to think the Clippers could beat them. That's fine. Of course. Sure, dude. It's going to be probably a 7-game series, dude. It's going to be phenomenal. But we're going to break down these starting lineups first, then we'll get to the bench. When you have a 2 top 5, top 4, potentially top 3, whatever you want to shake it, 2 top 5 players, that's pretty fucking good, right? And then you have 2 top 10 players. I'm saying right now the last time we saw, well, I shouldn't say the last time we saw Paul George on a court, he was a top 10 player because obviously his shoulder was messed up. So he wasn't a top 10 player. He had shoulder surgery on both. So if you're going to sit there and doubt, if you're going to tell me LeBron's about to fall off, show me the evidence, and then you have to look at Paul George appropriately then too, coming off shoulder injury. And we know he's not getting younger. He's not LeBron's age. No one's played his minutes, but he has had far more injuries than LeBron. So we got to measure it all out. I understand that Kawhi's 28, and that's why he could take over that mantle. I get that. But where did LeBron fall off last year? He had his first injury that was a long period of time in his whole entire career, okay? He averaged, 28, about 28, 7, and 7. If you look at his minutes, he didn't, and we all know he ramps up his game as the season goes on. So, you don't just fall off the next year. You show signs of it this year, then you show even more signs of it, then you fall off. It's like Chris Paul right now is teetering, right? We've seen signs of Chris Paul fading. Most of it's been injury, but that's what it is, So right now he's not falling off though, but man, he's right on that edge where he'll still do 15 and 7 assists. And he'll still give you great minutes at times, but you just don't know if you can count on him health-wise. That's something you can say, well, look at that, look at that, look at that. With LeBron, show me where you can say he's going to fall off. The guy, and remember, regular season Braun and playoff Braun, total two different freaking beasts. Not even, they're similar, but the days of going for MVP has been gone, and that load that he had to take on, in Cleveland for those couple of years when, remember, they wanted to rest him, but they couldn't.
Sure.
He still was able to perform through that. Now, when you take LeBron off the floor, AD's probably going to be okay without Bronny for a couple minutes. My guess is, right? I think
yeah.
he'd be okay, right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. And also, just look at their center / power forward, whatever you want to say, because now people are saying maybe Boogie will start and Davis will play the power forward, something that he has said that in the past, he could play the 4, which would be like, that's interesting defensively. I don't know, but that's kind of interesting. Good luck getting a rebound. But, look at the depth at the center position or big man position. Because really, nowadays it's a point guard, 3 forwards in a sense, and then or swing man, and then a center. That's basically what the league's transferred into. It's not really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anymore. So when you look at it, AD now has Boogie and McGee to back to help him with his load management. Minutes in a game, not even, it's a back-to-back, it's a 4 games and 7 nights. Okay, and there's a back-to-back in there. We're going to rest Davis, start Boogie, or vice versa. Let Boogie rest this back-to-back and put McGee in for a little bit more minutes. They're going to be able to limit, the minutes of Davis. It's just going to happen. It's right there staring at you. So that helps him. And by the way, if we're going to talk best player in the league and we're going to give can Leonard potentially take over the mantle, is LeBron ready to pass that torch? Well, if he passes the torch to Davis, he's 2 years younger. He could be the best player by the end of next year of the league. So then what? You know what I mean? So to me, it's interesting. But let's break this down a little bit. Now, as of today, Avery Bradley, it does sound like he's going to sign a 2-year deal with the Lakers. So that's another guy who can handle the ball a little bit. He can guard, and he can hit threes. They got a bunch of shooters too. Not, the Clippers, I do like that they've all played together already, and we'll get into the benches. But when you look at the starting lineup of the Clippers, we'll start with the Clippers. You got to think Patrick Beverley is going to start and set that defensive tone, I'd assume. Now, maybe they go Shamet or whatever that young point guard is, pretty damn good. Maybe they start him. I'm guessing they just gave him a 3-year deal. I'm guessing with this, he could shoot the three. So I'm guessing he's the perfect 3D with Beverly, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and then a lot of people are high on Zubik. I think it's Zubac or Zubik, the center there, the young center that they got. And then obviously, this is where you don't know exactly where they're going to go. Are they going to play somebody in a role position where they can already score enough so they're just going to bring a defender in? Are they going to use Harrell, who really came on last year once they got rid of DeMarcus, or not DeMarcus, but help me out. He's with the Nets right now. He's with the Clippers. Oh, my God.
Bias?
No. The big man who signed with the Nets now. He was with the Clippers with the big three. It was Paul George, Griffin, and the big center. What the hell is his name? Thank you. You said it earlier this year. So now that DeAndre Jordan, that he's been out, Harrell really stepped up. So I like Patrick Beverley. I like Paul George. I like Kawhi. I'm guessing that Zubac will be that guy. Maybe they'll get somebody to kind of do in there. Maybe it'll be Harrell. But Beverly, George, and Kawhi is a pretty damn good lineup. Now, there's holes a little bit there, or not a little bit. There's holes when it comes to a big man. Now, compared to, let's say, a Bradley or Rondo, I don't know who they're going to start. If you look at Rondo last year, he was 4th in assists. His minutes were like 28 minutes, something like that. But if you go back another year in that, he was key for that New Orleans run. And he's a guy that now, if he can, at this age, worry about assist and defense, and that's it, and play him 27, 28 minutes, I still think he's got some minutes there. People were canceling him out a couple of years ago. Remember, once he got hurt with Chicago, they didn't do as well. Then he helped be a good role player for, like I said, New Orleans in that sweep for Portland. So I don't know where you go. If you go Bradley, because he's a little taller, if you go Rondo, I have no clue. But Danny Green, the signing of Danny Green is a pretty damn good role player to play with AD and LeBron. It really is. The guy, I think, led the league, and maybe he was like 3rd or something in 3-point. He can defend. He's long and lanky, and you're not depending on to be a second guy or something like that. So you got Danny Green. You got LeBron. That could be the backcourt. I don't know, because they are talking about LeBron's going to literally play point guard. Now, is that to have Kuzma in the starting lineup? Then it's AD and Boogie? Or do they go Rondo, LeBron, Danny Green, AD, and Kuzma? I don't know. But that's just kind of a look at the starting lineup. And obviously, you start to get to maybe like 7 to maybe 8 in the most important games on the bench. That's what we know. Not too many teams are going to go 5 and 5 to play 10 guys a lot. Obviously that's what they did in the Clippers, but they didn't have the guys they're going to have this year. So who has the better starting lineup? To me, on paper, the Lakers have it, and it all has to do with who they got down low, the Lakers, and who they got down low with the Clippers. And it's hard to find anybody to hang with AD, but certainly these guys aren't going to be able to do it down low.
Yeah, well, I mean, and another good thing to remember is the fact that Anthony Davis and Boogie played together pretty well. Like, people, I think the image of Boogie Cousins being this awful teammate's pretty much gone away over the past couple of years. But him and Davis, when they were in New Orleans, people were like, how are those two going to be teammates? And I know that Boogie ended up getting hurt, and they did run a little faster after that, but the experiment of AD and Boogie playing together wasn't a flawed experiment. It wasn't some awful thing. They had about a month and a half where they were playing together pretty well. So And obviously Cousins will now be healthy coming off his Achilles. Last year was kind of just a beat-up year for him, but he has an offseason now to train. Obviously the man still wants a ring. He has a chance again now. So I think those bigs alone are good. Again, for the Lakers, you also, Jared Dudley is a role player along with Danny Green. Like they're putting their pieces together.
Yeah, we'll get to the bench. We'll get to the bench.
For starting lineups, I'm with you. It's LeBron's still number one, and however you want to mix it up, I'm with you that it's such a weird situation to guard because LeBron and Anthony Davis are really big people who don't need to stand near the basket. Like they're like LeBron can take anyone off the dribble.
It's a great way to put that, Marshall. It's a great imagery to put that way. You're so right. It's like, wow, that's a great point.
and whoever you want to put whoever you want on LeBron. Iguodala maybe did the best job ever. I don't maybe Kawhi, but whoever's going to guard him, Kawhi or PG-13, they're still going to get beat off the dribble. And a guy like Kawhi probably is too small to guard Anthony Davis or vice versa. So that Lakers lineup, man, it's special. And if you get the DeMarcus Cousins of like 2 years ago when he was really thriving with the Kings and like when he is healthy, I mean, you now got 3 All-Stars on the same team. And I've heard for year after year after year, Kuzma's like a special kid. And now, dude, if you're Kyle Kuzma, you just got to be jumping for joy. You didn't get traded to New Orleans. Pressure's off.
Pressure's off.
You're a guy that's been
baby.
You're named as you've been profiled as a shooter, and it's like, dude, you're gonna get open shot after open shot after open shot. Like people always kind of gave the Warriors credit for being a team that could pass the ball well and let everyone shoot. But most of the times it was like Clay and Curry running off screens and jacking up threes, and they're just so good they could make them. Kuzma's not going to have to run anywhere. He's just going to stand somewhere, and when someone double teams LeBron or AD, it's like, hey,
your best
I'm open.
Spots, just stand there and shut up.
Please, LeBron can have the ball. Three, uncontested looks the whole day. So I'm with you. Again, I'm probably a little bit biased because I'm a LeBron guy and I obviously like Boogie and everything, but I just think that the size matchups make that team literally like they're unguardable. I mean, obviously they're not going to score 200 points a game, but with LeBron and AD, and if you throw in Boogie and he returns to form, there's too many big bodies that have too much skill. And DeMarcus Cousins is actually a really good passer if he needs to be. If it's like, hey, give the ball to DeMarcus, and it's like who are you going to put your bigs on, and you're going to have to pick. So let's just say, and I'll throw it back to you after this. Let's say, okay, you're playing Lakers tonight. You're putting your best defender on LeBron, and you're putting a big on Anthony Davis. Okay. You're going to leave a small forward or power forward on DeMarcus Cousins? Like, he's going to kill that person. So, yeah, it's just a matchup nightmare for opponents, Chris, due to the height, size, and mobility.
Just the pick and roll, the screen and roll, the pick and pop, the run rim, whatever you're going to say between the two-man game. Just the two-man game between LeBron and AD is going to be silly. Look at the options. They're endless. And it's not like Davis doesn't know how to pass the ball. He gets triple-doubles.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really about, you know what I mean? So you look at the open shots in the open lanes, they're going to have just that two-man. But if they are able to somehow, the best, defenses get better. You play better defenses as the playoffs go, of course. So we're talking playoff basketball here. They can, with Boogie in the starting lineup, they can still do really well and maybe have the best record potentially, at least on the West side. I don't know about overall because, the East, whatever, but because the East bottom half is probably worse, or like after 5 or 6, it falls off more than it falls off in the West, so they'll probably get more wins, just like last year. But just that alone, the options alone with those two, and then if you are able to defend that play, then somebody's wide the fuck open over and over. And I just talked about that retool mid-season, not even mid-season, late in the season with Cleveland, and somehow LeBron had all these shooters around him again. You know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, they don't play defense. That team didn't play defense, but this is a different retool because they can take their time and pick out players they want. But just the two-man game alone, I mean, on a partial break, Marshall, a partial break, doesn't even have to be 3-on-2 or 2-on, just a partial break. And you know how rebounds are in the NBA now with these threes. They come far out sometimes. Obviously, that does help the offensive team, but it also can get those partial breaks a lot quicker now. That's why you see that a lot more. And imagine AD, who can run, settles down and clogs up the lane, and somehow, to say sneaking right behind Davis is really hard to say LeBron's going to sneak behind anybody. But when you look at a guy who's 7'1", that is actually what's happening. But imagine Davis just hunkering down in the post momentarily, and LeBron comes right behind him. I mean, in the easy buckets in the post, LeBron has the ball out front. How many times Davis is really just going to be like, forget trying to establish, with my, back to the basket. I'm going to establish rebounding position and just throw that fucker over him. You know what I mean? Like, it's the easy buckets that Davis and LeBron are going to get are the easiest buckets they've gotten in their career. And how many buckets can they get? What are the shooting percentages that LeBron and AD are going to have combined? I mean, come on, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, I love the Clippers, but now let's get to, and if you want to add on to that a little bit, we'll get to the Clippers and then the bench and then get out of here. If you want to add on to anything I just was talking about.
I guess there are a couple ACC boys, but, I mean, for the Lakers, guys that can hit shots, like Danny Green was a top 5 corner three-point shooter this year, I believe. Obviously, Jared Dudley's just a role veteran guy who's been around for a long time, which I think will help because I do see there being a bunch of chaos with the coaching. Like that poor Frank Vogel, who knows, with like Jason Kidd behind him. I don't know. I think the team's going to need some chemistry because I think the coaches are going to be in the news all year. Again, McGee, all the guy does is play defense. He does really good. He helped the Dubs win a title. Quinn Cook, I mean, that team. KCP, all those guys, especially with Danny Green, and it just becoming specialized three-point shooters and Kuzma, it's going to be effortless. And as you mentioned, I was thinking about in my head, like I watch the NBA quite a bit. I get the package and watch other teams. I've seem to bet New Orleans because they always score a lot of points. And
right.
I think Anthony Davis is the easiest guy that does the alley-oop dunks because he's so super athletic and quick and tall. Like, sure, Hassan Whiteside's super tall.
NFL. It's like a jump ball in the NFL. Just fucking throw the thing up to him.
I know. So, like, LeBron, like, I mean, I guess DeMarcus Cousins doesn't have the ups that Anthony Davis does, obviously, but just down low, yeah, good luck. LeBron, alley-oop to Anthony Davis, you're not going to contain that. You can do what you want, and sure, triple team the two guys, and now you have someone massively open. So it is going to be a very interesting offense, and if you're a player on that team not named LeBron or AD or Boogie, like, dude, just get ready to score points. Like, you're going to build up your stock effortlessly just come from how teams are going to try to defend them. Now, obviously, it's a little bit of a different setup per se with the Clippers, Chris. You don't have quite a high-flying freak of LeBron, AD, or a big like Boogie, but you do have two guys who are very, very good off the dribble. From watching the past couple of years, it does seem like PG-13 can move around and score a little bit off catching off passes, and compared to Kawhi, is a little more of an isolation guy. But
sure,
that's also a team who's not the Lakers that will be a very hard team to defend as well. Because if you double either of those people, if you double Kawhi, okay, Paul George is now wide open. Or if you really D up and press on Kawhi and Paul George, you now have a guy like Lou Williams who can score. He scored points with the Clippers roster from the past 3 to 4 years. He now has to be like Kuzma, like, dude, I know how to score, and I got people now that are going to take the ball and just give it to me when I'm wide open. Like, okay. I think it's going to be a little more of a perimeter-based team just because simply the fact that you don't really have a lineup of AD and Boogie, but from a perimeter-based team in isolation and spacing, which the Clippers have always kind of been doing. Obviously, you don't have Blake and DeAndre there anymore, but from perspective of people on the wing, Lou Williams, I know I've mentioned his name a lot, but the dude can score effortlessly. Him, Paul George, and Kawhi, it's a different concept than the Lakers, but if you double-team any of those guys off the dribble, someone's going to be wide open that can shoot and kill you from outer range. And Kawhi, we found out, when Kawhi wants to go isolation, besides maybe LeBron, good luck stopping him, Chris. So it's a little different setup, but that offense, too, is going to be just killing people from deep. The post probably won't be as used as much as the Lakers, but that offensive perimeter team is going to be a pain. Sure, absolutely.
Definitely fits the game now more.
Yeah, go ahead with that. But yeah, obviously it's just a wing-based team, but they're gonna score a lot.
Yeah, you're right, and just Beverly, George, and Kawhi, just that right there defensively is damn good. It's damn good. It really is, especially in this league. And you can't always go head-to-head. Obviously, I think that's going to be the conference final, but you can't think head-to-head in the season. You got to think about how they're going to play other teams. And that's where, like I said, the Boogie thing, they can get away with it during the regular season, starting him. Maybe he's not the strongest offensively, but they can get away with it. And they can bring in a backup in McGee that will be stronger defensively as well. Man, that's a hell of a matchup. You're totally right, especially bringing Lou Williams. And if they want to go really small, which I don't know how you do against the Lakers, but Lou Williams, Beverly, George, and Kawhi, and then a center, like, wow, dude, holy crap. Like, good luck with that, and they can defend. But obviously, just breaking down the bench, you did a pretty good job of breaking down the Lakers bench. Lou Williams, obviously the best player off the bench, I'd have to say. Clearly, he's already ready to do it. He's the sixth man of the year. I think he's won it 3 times now. It's already ready to do it. And that's another thing about we got to see how these parts fit for the Lakers. Whereas we don't really have to see how they fit for the Clippers in the regular season because you have Lou Williams. Now, Boogie, if he were to come off the bench, then I think he could be right up there with the second best bench player maybe if you're going back and forth. Harrell could come off the bench. He could start. I assume he's going to start, but who knows for the Clippers. But then you have their backup point guard Shamet, who's a really good player. Mike Scott. They got Harkless. Jermichael Green. Like everyone on the Clippers, like you said, can hit a frickin' 3. So regular season-wise, and that's where I think as these guys age and play the minutes they play, we know Kawhi played 66 games. They tried to limit his minutes and all that. I think it's really missing games is missing games, but really it's about limiting the minutes in the games too. And when you can go a good 8 to 10 deep, matters the matchups, that's pretty freaking good. And they've all played together. They're ready to go. And when you look at that roster from last year from the Clippers, there's a lot of guys that didn't start. Some of them started as the season went on, as they, lost some players and whatnot. But they have a bench to plug and play. Now, are you going to be able to play 9 to 10 players, though, in the conference final, Marshall? That's what we got to think about when you start to say, well, they're 10 deep. Or are they going to play all 10? And then what's their other big men? Do they have 2 to 3 big men? And I've already heard people, well, you can pick up big men. Well, you can, but you're not going to pick up an elite big man. So what are your thoughts there? Clearly they have the best bench for the regular season because it's already ready to go. And maybe that's why people think, well, they'll have – and another thing, playoff time, we'll talk about this when it comes next year, but playoff time, whoever has the home court, Is it as strong as a home court as you think it would be, though, in the Staples Center? Because the prices for those games, the amount of rich people and celebrities and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, you have the season ticket owners. They're for the Lakers or the Clippers, whoever has home court in that series. They're gonna get a lot of tickets, but they're not gonna get all the freaking tickets. You know what I mean? So, like, that's kind of an interesting home court. All of a sudden, I gotta favor the Lakers if they have the home court, obviously, because they've been an established brand. But it does kind of make me think, that's kind of an interesting one, and it would suck for the Clippers that they got home court, and then you're like, damn, but there's a ton of Laker fans here, you know what I mean? So it really doesn't feel like home court. So it's kind of weird, man. It's kind of a weird matchup, but back to that, I cut you off. 8 to 10 in a conference final. Can you play 10 guys and still get what you want? They're going to have to find a bunch of guys that will follow the big dude AD, too, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't want to. Like, it just Golden State in the playoffs this year was playing 8, 9 to 10 guys, but even later when it came down to it, like Jerebko, who I said was pretty much garbage in the playoffs, like Kerr just quit playing him. Kerr quit playing Jordan Bell. You know, I mean, yeah, it's nice to have the depth, but it came down to pretty much the Warriors were using 7 guys, or even the Trailblazers. It was like, okay, you had Rodney Hood and Collins, and it was pretty much, okay, well, you guys got to help out Lillard and McCollum. Like, you know, and they've been playing more people. Like, it comes down to the point, Chris, where you're playing against someone who's pretty damn good, and if you let your 8th, 9th, and 10th guy on the court, they're kind of useless in a way. And obviously, we're talking about the best players in the world, but realistically, your 8, 9, and 10 guys aren't going to win you a ring. Like, they can only be on the court for so long to where they do something to where if they're playing against other teams starting 3 best players, like, they're ineffective. So
it helps you with the matchup because you can go tit for tat with a guy, and maybe in this series you only play 8 guys, but he's going to be the guy. So if you got 3 extra guys, at least you got maybe a matchup thing. But other than that, that's about it. At least you got options, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. You do have options, but it just gets hard. Anything above 7 or 8, I saw it just firsthand this year. It's like, okay, you know, but in the regular season, you know, Golden State got up in a game. Okay, bring in the bench. You know, hey, we're up 20. Let Curry and Clay rest. Okay, no big deal. They come in. But come playoff time, that you know, you don't get that opportunity. You can't just hey, we're up 12 points. Let's bring in the bench. Well, shit. Now that lead's gone down to 2. You know, it's such a different dynamic. And another thing that I think it's hard to explain about, but I think it's something we've learned about in sports for a long time, is people need to learn their roles. Like, Lou Williams is the 6th man, probably the best 6th man in basketball. Right. Okay, so now you're 6 deep. Okay, that's a guaranteed 6.
Yeah.
And obviously guys like Kawhi and Paul George, they're not going to sit on the bench much. Frickin', I'll give Kawhi credit, dude. In that series against Milwaukee and Philadelphia, you had to literally get your remote out and pause, like, he's off the court. Okay, 2 minutes later he's on.
Exactly.
You know? So it was like, did he play? I remember asking my mom, I watched the game, they're like, did he go to the bench? Like, I don't recall Kawhi being out for more than 1 commercial, you know. So that's another part where, like, guys like Kawhi and Paul George, like LeBron and AD, they're not going to play. They're not going to be on the bench for more than 5 to 6. So I do think it kind of turns into who's going to find the role, who becomes the best player. Obviously, some people are going to get pissed, maybe want different minutes and all that. It comes down to being a coach too. But I'm with you. It's I guess something that we'll see how it plays out, Chris. But obviously finding a big like Wilson Chandler, I see he's on the Clippers 3-4 years ago, would be a great piece. You know, does he still have it in him? Who knows? But it'll be fun. And you know, the news is going to be covering them nonstop. It's going to be LA, just every day this year, my friend. People who were fed up with Laker fans are going to now start having nightmares again of being fed up with Laker Kobe fans. Now it's Laker LeBron fans. Obviously more of a LeBron guy than Kobe. So I don't mind it as much, but it's still going to get sickening to here we go about the Lakers again.
here is the tipping point in this rivalry and matchup. His name is Iggy. If he buys out or gets traded and then buys out with Memphis, if the Clippers or the Lakers sign Iggy for this next year, I can't say 3 years from now, I just know this coming year, he could balance. He could be a difference in that starting lineup.
Oh,
and
God.
If the to not have to play Boogie and to be able to play LeBron at the, I guess, 1 and 4, if you could put Iguodala in that starting lineup with what they got right now,
Jesus.
forget it. And then if you look on the other side, then they could maybe mount up, play 3 bigs or 4 bigs at that position for the Clippers, and then Iggy could play that smaller 4. Or same with, obviously, Kawhi, too. So Iggy right now is still he could still make that slight difference. Iguodala, he really could. And don't be surprised if he ends up with the Clippers or the Lakers. Obviously, right now, most people think he's going to be a Laker, but that could change too, dude. But yeah, dude, Iggy, man. Iggy, we're going to close it with Iggy. The way he's the closer, so we're going to close it with Iggy. Why don't you get us out of here? You can give your take on that.
Man, if you put you put Iggy and Boogie, it's I'm smiling, man. If you put him on that team and LeBron and AD, and then you got a guy like that'd be scary. And hey, I hope he does. That guy's earned all of his. I mean, he probably doesn't even get enough credit he deserves to people who aren't more diehard fans or deeper NBA fans. If you put him with LeBron, hey, Iggy, go guard Kawhi. Okay, gotcha. And
exactly. And same with the other side of it. Hey, Iggy, go guard LeBron so Leonard doesn't have to do it. You know how much that frees up the LeBron or that Leonard? It's amazing. And that's why I brought it up, man, because it still could shift the balance in Vegas, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, man. Just use whatever pitch you got to. Oh man, if he goes to either team, that's a huge upgrade. Now you have a massive piece on your bench who come playoff time, he's going to war with you. That he's special. I got spoiled being able to watch him for my team for a long time. He's probably never coming back. That's sad, but man, that dude, lockdown is as much as you can get.
Jersey. They're retiring his freaking jersey, dude. They loved him so much.
For a guy that was a off the bench player who played there for 6 years. If he that's all you got.
Only started in the playoffs, in the conference finals and shit,
That is the biggest sign of respect you can get. They retired your jersey and you weren't a starter for 5-6 years. Well, I can't end on a better note than that. Actually, I will say, hopefully everyone has some tea, drink some tea tonight, and be proud of the women of what they accomplished as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Chris,
hell yeah.
That I'm happy they're celebrating, having fun. Those women are it's like they're partying with the Stanley Cup. They're enjoying their moment as they deserve. So Chris and I'll be back. Well, who knows? Something could happen in the NBA. For all we know, in a week, Westbrook could get traded.
We could be back tomorrow.
If he goes to Minneapolis, I guarantee my co-host is going to be calling me, and no matter what time of the day, dude, we got to do a podcast. Let's go. So Chris and I'll be back again.
3-hour podcast.
Chris and I'll be back again sometime soon. College football is really not too far away. We're getting to the point now where college football season is going to start cooking up again, and my co-host is Gophers team has an interesting non-conference schedule. So we'll be talking football previews pretty soon. Before you know it, NBA always keeps you entertained. Thanks as always for listening to our podcast. As Chris said, there's many, many ways to do that. We appreciate it all the time. And again, if you want to call in, we always love BSing with people too. As long as you're not a massive Duke fan, you're good in my book. So until then, enjoy the next week of your summer. I'll be in Vegas soon. We might have to do a podcast from Vegas just because, well, it would be special. The boys are out. Have a good night. Peace.